Morning. Getting up underneath your mower can be a bit of a hassle if you don't have the right tools, whether it's for popping your blades off to sharpen them or to scrape all the stuff off of the deck. There's two options out there that I've seen that didn't really fit what I wanted to do. There's the one where the wheels will pop up into the square wheel holders, and then it jacks it up like a floor jack, and then you have to work around the jack coming in from the sides and switching around it. Or there's the one where it just hooks up underneath the deck, and then you pull the handle down and it pivots the mower up into the air. And then the same problem exists where you have to try to work around that jack, and they're expensive. And then when you're not using them, you have to find a place to keep that, and it's just taking up space, getting in your way. So I've had an idea that I've been using for a few years now that may help you out. It's pretty cheap, it's very easy, and then when you're not using it, it packs up into a small box and you can put it on a shelf somewhere. So let me show you what it is. So to come up over here, I just have it in an old Exmark hydro oil change kit box. You can put it in whatever box you want, but you can see how small and compact that is when you're not using it. Now what I keep in this box is just a 1-ton, this is what, a Hallmaster chain hoist that I got from Harbor Freight. Wasn't all that expensive. And then to hook that up, I just keep this strap. I keep this strap in there as well. It's just like a webbed strap that has a loop on each end. Really, you could use a ratchet strap as well. I just got this off of some bundles of pipe that they used to come with when I worked at a plumbing supply house. But what I do is I take the hook from this chain hoist. It's a 1-ton chain hoist. And then up on the ceiling, I've just got an anchor point. Now all this is this is a tie-down anchor for a trailer. I got that at Harbor Freight as well. And you just find your ceiling joist in your garage ceiling. And I used lag bolts to put these into there. Pre-drill your holes. See, I found the edges of the beam. Made sure it was there. Just stuck a pick up through the ceiling just to be sure that my stud finder wasn't all jacked up. But anchored that in. It's on there solid. So that thing was only $5 or $6. But then you take your chain hoist, you hang it from that right in the center of your garage bay, and it just hangs out. So you know exactly where to line your mower up when you bring it on in, and I'll get the mower around to show you how I hook it up. So what I do is I just pull up to it. I let the hook hang. That way I know right in the center where it needs to be. Pull up to it, and then this strap, I run it across the front and then around the frame and up to the hook on both sides. And the reason I do that is because then when I'm lifting up the mower, it's lifting up on just the frame. I'm not pinching anything. It goes on the inside of the deck linkage, so there's nothing getting pinched. There's nothing getting pulled on. It's just the frame. And then, once you've got it all hooked up, and of course, you don't want to be laying underneath that with it just hanging from the chain, because if anything were to happen with those bolts, they're in there solid. But if anything were to happen with those, this whole thing's going to slam down on you. So what you do, get you some jack stands, set them underneath, and then you lower them back down. And now that you're lowered down onto the jack stands. I lower them down to where it's just the deck is resting on them, but this chain is still tight. And then pretty much everybody has this really annoying pole that's in the really inconvenient spot in the middle. I just take this chain and I just wrap it around. That way it's not in my way. So then I can grab my creeper, throw it down on the floor, and then you can crawl right up underneath and get to your blades. You can scrape your deck, take the blades off. You're doing all of that without having to worry about a lift being right in the way of where you're needing to work. You don't have to worry about trying to wiggle in from this side and then this side, trying to get along without hitting the, whether it's like the floor lift or whatever lift that is that rotates the whole thing up. You can get directly in from the front. You can scrape your deck. You can get to all of the blades without stuff being in your way. Now, generally what I do is I'll just lay on my side, grab the impact, and zip them all off. It's all open access to get to the underside of the deck. Now, this is a bad boy 48, and you can see it gives you plenty of lift. I can lift it up more if I need to. I can lift it up less if for some reason I wanted to. It lifts it up plenty to be able to get to everything. And it works just fine as for the 36 as well. See, this way I have it wired up this direct, around that section, because these front frame posts are too far apart for me to loop it underneath and go up to the hook. The 36, it's just fine. You just wrap it underneath the front there and it goes right up to the hook. And then if you have a sit-down zero turn, it works just fine for those as well. I usually do the same thing. I put the strap across the front here, loop it back and underneath, and then back and underneath right up to the hook. It picks up your zero turn just perfectly. Now, this whole machine here weighs around 800 pounds, but you're not lifting all that 800 pounds because it's all rotating with the weight in the back. This one picks up a little more, but it's still not too much to overpower the hold that those bolts have on the ceiling. I've been doing it this way for years, and it works just fine. I've done it for these stand-on mowers. I've done it for zero turns. I've also used it for lawn tractors. Now, another really handy thing about this setup is to where it's not just being able to lift up the front of the mower to get up underneath the deck, to scrape the deck and sharpen your blades and all. This also comes in really handy for if you need to patch one of your rear tires or swap it out. Anytime you have to pull that wheel off, it's very handy because the section down here at the bottom, especially on these bad boys, is not big enough to get a floor jack underneath. But it does have, at least for these mowers, it has these tie-down points where you can hook something onto there. So then you just take your chain hoist, hook it to that, give it a pull, and that mower tire is now off of the ground. You can zip off your lug nuts, pull the tire off, go ahead and patch it, swap it out, whatever you need to do, slap it back on here, get them all tightened up and everything, and then lower it back down. And then you don't have to worry about trying to figure out a way to get that back tire off the ground with like car ramps and then try to stick a jack up underneath it like right there and then jack it up so you can get the weight off of the tire. And of course it's going to be a little different with every mower. You might have to rig the strap up a little different. You might have to use a different hook point. But I find that this 1-ton chain hoist is plenty strong for everything I've needed to lift. I've never had any problems with it. It stores down real small. I can throw it up onto a shelf. It's out of the way. I use it every week for my maintenance that I do. I use it for swapping out my tires. you know, if I have to patch a hole, which hey, we all get holes in our tires. It just works out really, really well. So instead of using these expensive, big, bulky jacks that you have to find a place to put when you're not using them, maybe try this out where you just get, you know, a tie down for a trailer from Harbor Freight, anchor that in solid, pre-drill your holes, and then put your lug nut or your lag bolts in, and then get you a 1-ton chain hoist. I have seen people use the electric ones, and this seems a lot more simple than the electric ones because there's no plug-in that has to be next to it. You don't have to fiddle around with putting metal, you know, bracing in and all that stuff. And on the electric ones, when you hit that button, it's going to raise it up and it's going to jolt it. This one, it moves it moves in small increments, and it moves it slowly, so you can put it exactly where you need it. It's not jumping or jolting anything. So it just works out really, really well. So if you need a way to do your maintenance without having a jack in the way, or just having to find a place to put a jack when you're not using it, give this a shot. I think the chain hoist was, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks at Harbor Freight. Like I said, the trailer tie down that I used, it was $5 or $6. And it all just works out great. So if that helps you out, good deal. I'm gonna get back to work. Y'all be good.